Bonjour class, today we're learning a new way to use the subjunctive, a new reason to use it, and also how to conjugate three irregular verbs in the subjunctive, avoir, être, and faire. Today's lesson we'll be talking about what expressions of will and emotion are, and how to conjugate avoir, être, and faire in the subjunctive. It's a pretty short lesson, it just requires a lot of memorization. Expressions of will and emotion are used in the subjunctive when they are meant to influence the actions or emotions of other people. So if you see an expression that's saying, I would be happy if you did this, we talked in the past about how would automatically leads to the conditional, but if I'm trying to influence somebody else with my emotion, it becomes the subjunctive, because that is a very subjective opinion or viewpoint. Some expressions of will that will always signal the subjunctive are demander que, to ask that, but of course we would always conjugate this because it's an ER verb. Désirer que, to want or desire that. Exiger que, to demand that. Préférer que, to prefer that. Proposer que, to propose that. Recommander que, to recommend that. Souhaiter que, to wish that. Suggérer que, to suggest that, and vouloir que, to want that. So the key word to look at here, you see que at the end of each of these expressions, and we already kind of know from our last tutorial that the word que will very often signal the subjunctive. So anytime that you see one of these verbs, if it is talking about somebody else's action afterwards, so if you have one of these and then somebody else's action, that second action following will need to be the subjunctive. Then we have our expressions of emotion, like aimer que, to like that, avoir peur que, to be afraid that, être content que, to be glad that, and we have this E in parentheses, as you should know by now, in case the speaker is feminine. Être désolé que, to be sorry that. Être furieux or furieuse, depending on whether you need the masculine or feminine form que, to be furious that. Être heureux que, to be happy that. Être surpris que, to be surprised that. Être triste que, to be sad that. And regretter que, to regret that. Again, the key word que at the end of these. If you don't have que at the end, the following will not be in the subjunctive. This is your key that anything coming afterward will need to be in the subjunctive. And just to make things interesting, last time we learned about the regular conjugation of the subjunctive, but of course, as always, we have our irregular verbs, and they don't really follow a pattern, so here's how they go. Avoir, conjugated in the subjunctive, is j'ai, tu es, il, elle est, nous ayons, vous ayez, il, elle est. So even though this is irregular, we can still put our thinking caps on and come up with some of our patterns. We already see that our boot verbs have the AI beginning, but for nous and vous it changes to AY. As usual, nous ends in ONS, vous ends in EZ, il, elle ends in ENT. Here we kind of mix and match our rules. We remember for some verb types, il, elle will end in T, and most of the time, je ends in E and tu ends in ES. So although this is irregular, it doesn't follow the pattern of the other one, we can still see some patterns that might help us remember this conjugation a little bit more easily. Same for être. Je sois, tu sois, il, elle soit, nous soyons, vous soyez, il, elle soit. So again, it doesn't follow the pattern of conjugation for a regular verb in the subjunctive, but it does have its own pattern, as you can see here. And lastly, we have faire in the subjunctive is je fasse, tu fasses, il, elle fasse, nous fassions, vous fassiez, and il, elle fasse. So take a minute to copy these down, start noticing patterns, highlight things in different colors if you need to recognize the stems and the endings, and then make sure that you put all of this in your notes.